about my time at the Bobart Centre with such wonderful people as Judy Murray, who was a brilliant occupational therapist, creative, brilliant. To see her working with children, what she extracted from them in the subtle way she got them to play, to look, to interact. It was all wonderful, the environment, the sensory, motor, and her creativity setting up the scene so that functional activities and tasks could happen. It was just, you felt that you were just so privileged to see someone working so well. And the fact that they were such a team approach, speech language therapist, occupational therapist, physiotherapist, with core knowledge, this is the strength about the Bobart neurodevelopmental approach, is that it has the team working together from the professional backgrounds, but working with core knowledge that is common to all, so that there's harmony in the way you assess and work with the child. And that is very coordinating. It's very affirming for the parents because there isn't a conflict of interest because they've all got the same background. And working with Jenny Bryce and watching her and her analysis and her way of teaching and her humour, let's not forget her humour, and with her kids, getting them to be happy while she was working with them, really getting them engaged. I mean, all the basic principles of analysis of postural tone and patterns, which is core Bobart philosophy, what is the core of the Bobart concept, because if you don't get that, you can't analyse what they can do, what the problems are, what's interfering, what's missing, what the gaps are. If you don't do that clinical reasoning, which has now been put under a wonderful framework from the World Health Organization model of the International Classification of Function of Disability and Health, which we use as core Bobart things, that's all been put into a modern context, but it was all there at the beginning. It was all there. It just had to be put into that framework, which presented itself beautifully, and it was a natural sequence because we always problem solved, we always clinical reasoned, we always were looking at the activity, the participation. But it was now up-to-date current Bobart is being put into that framework, which just fits beautifully. So going back to these core, the way people work together, the way they taught parents, the way they wanted carryover. And it's interesting that if you look at what was happening there in the 1970s compared with how we interpret what we're doing now, then probably one of the key changes was that they used to work in a treatment situation and expect there to be carryover. But now we know from movement science, motor control, motor learning, that actually it has to be task specific. You can prepare the child if they're stiff and tight forever, but if you don't then follow it through with some activity that has some meaning for the child, some way of having some success, then you won't get carryover. And now we are this is core Bobart stuff that is integral to our concept, the Bobart concept, that we do prepare the children, because if you don't get the feeling, the tone, and if you're very stiff, how to relax, how to lengthen the muscles, how to get alignment, how to prepare the child for functional activity, that's very important because there's a process. Then you work the child in the functional context, whether it's putting a shoe on, whether it's standing to reach for that toy. And that is the point, that all that was going on, but now we have formalised how we do it and what we do, bringing in the theories and the application from these later current philosophies. So motor control, success, feedback, practice, task-specific, environment, the individual, the task, all linking to make what you are doing meaningful, because we know otherwise learning does not take place. And we know that the children with cognition and that can help us that are learning will obviously make more progress than those that haven't got the cognition. So it is also linked with the whole child. And that is what was in action there. But now we're far more specific, whereas there it was probably a little bit more treatment orientated, even though you were showing parents how to dress, how to feed, how to bathe. That was all task specific. So it's just that we progressed on from that for today, for more currently. As I said, Jenny Bryce in particular was such a wonderful mentor and someone I respected enormously. We got on very well. We had lots of laughs. I remember a Portuguese little boy coming over with his father from Portugal who had had a very bad car accident and was quite severely involved. And working together with him, because he was very sensitive and when you touched his foot, and Jenny showing me how you worked into getting the sensory side of the body, the firm pressure, so that gradually we desensitized him. We got him so that he could take a bit of weight through his foot, whereas he used to pull it off the support all the time. We worked to getting more standing and balance, getting his weight onto that side. And it was the way in, the techniques, the resources to draw on what was working and what was the effect, and analysing, does that working? And it's that creative thinking about the bow bath approach that is so amazingly fantastic, because if you can get the specifics right, you know exactly what you're doing, then you can teach other people. And Jenny and I worked really well on this little boy, and I remember we went out to a restaurant and Dad said, please let me take you out to lunch, and that was sort of like a tremendous highlight, to go out and have lunch with his family and have lots of laughs and enjoy it. And again, that's the wonderful thing about physio, the personal contacts you make with people, and that you are really helping kids or families in their lives. So Jenny one day said, Kate, you know, I'd really like you, I've been thinking about you, and would you like to be Vice Principal of the Bow Bath Centre and stay and be part of the teaching team, and we'll mentor you along? Because I think we clicked and got on really well. And it was when I was thinking about staying and thinking about my life in New Zealand, and that I'd met this person, this man who I obviously thought about every day, that I realised that actually it was a great honour and privilege to be asked, and I was very, very humbled by that, because I respected her and the bow baths and the centre so much. But I had to decline, and so for personal reasons I didn't stay there and didn't live for longer in the UK and did come back to New Zealand. And I suppose on reflection, the fact that we were able to establish courses here, and that's another story, then that was how decisions often are made in one's life.